I'm going to discuss two major setbacks to Israel and its war criminal Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in this video. Remember, this bloodthirsty terrorist had justified his illegal attack on a sovereign country by basing it on the excuse that Iran was about to produce nuclear bombs and Israeli terrorists needed to destroy Tehran's capabilities by bombing Iranian nuclear sites? Guess what? Not only are Iranian nuclear facilities unscathed and intact, but the Iranians are more determined to acquire nuclear weapons, more than ever. You only have to see the dramatic developments of the past few days in Iran. And then there is this new declaration by Donald Trump that Iran had inflicted unbearable pain on Israel by firing a barrage of ballistic missiles. Even Donald Trump thinks Iran is the winner here. The Iranian parliament has just voted unanimously, yes, unanimously, to cut ties with the compromised International Atomic Energy Agency, or the IAEA. This just happened in the last few hours in the Iranian parliament. In the 223-seat Iranian parliament, 221 members voted in favor of cutting ties with the IAEA, and there was not a single vote against the proposal. That's how united the Iranian parliament is following the indiscriminate bombing by Israeli terrorists. As I said in my earlier videos, Israelis and the Donald Trump administration have single-handedly united Iranians against them. Even though the likes of the Western propaganda outlets such as the BBC would tell you, quoting anonymous and mysterious sources, that there is a huge unrest against the current establishment in Iran. And just to let you know, these people who are reporting about this so-called unrest in Iran are themselves based out of London. That's the level of deception these fake news peddlers are prepared to go through, and it's time you understood their nefarious motive. Cutting ties with the IAEA is massive. What this means is that the IAEA wouldn't be able to inspect Iranian nuclear facilities. Iran will also immediately refuse to cooperate with the installation of cameras at its nuclear facilities, inspections, inspector access, or submitting reports to the agency. There's also been a suspicion in the Iranian establishment that the IAEA had used the information on the Iranian scientists, nuclear scientists, and that it allegedly passed on this information to the Israeli spy agency Mossad, which in turn helped the rogue regime of Netanyahu to carry out their targeted assassination. The IAEA chief, Rafael Grossi, also faced condemnation from the Iranian government for misleading statements that provided context to the Israelis and their Western backers to justify the illegal attack on Iran. Though Grossi clarified his stand later, but he still didn't issue an unequivocal statement rejecting the claims that Iran was weeks away from producing nuclear bombs. He kept using terms such as systematic, etc., to continue to create doubt in people's minds.
It was an important consideration. I understand what you're saying, but the fact that they continue to cite this report, based on your assessments, I mean, given what the U.S. intelligence community has been saying, and it's contradicting what the Israeli intelligence is saying, the Americans have continued to say, and Tulsi Gabbard said two months ago to the Senate Estimates Committee, the intelligence community has continued to say that we don't believe that Iran at this point in time is trying to weaponize. Is that your assessment as well?
Well, that was not in the same way. We have different mandate, different approach than the national intelligence of a country. For us, on the basis of our inspections, on the basis of our own evaluations, we came to the conclusion that we could not affirm that there is any systematic effort in Iran at the moment to manufacture a nuclear weapon. While we say that, at the same time, we say Iran is enriching 60% uranium, the only country in the world doing that. So there were elements for concern.
Grossi also didn't use his office to formally and repeatedly highlight that the attack on Iran's nuclear facilities, first by Israel and then by the US, was a violation of the international law. He only said it once during his address to the United Nations Security Council as a passing reference, and that's it.
In this regard, as I also reminded the Board of Governors of the IAEA, there are numerous General Conference resolutions on the topic of military attacks against nuclear facilities, in particular resolutions General Conference 444 or 533, which indicated that any armed attack and threat against nuclear facilities devoted to peaceful purposes is a violation of the principles of the Charter, international law, and the statute of the agency.
So if Netanyahu justifies his depravity against Iran by claiming he was only there to destroy Iranian nuclear facilities, the end result is now the exact opposite. Meanwhile, even rogue organizations like the BBC is now contradicting the US claims to have obliterated Iran's uranium enrichment site in Isfahan. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he just defended the effects of US strikes on Iran, referencing to the uranium conversion facility at Isfahan. Let's listen to him first here.
Here's a fact. The conversion facility, which you can't do a nuclear weapon without a conversion facility, we can't even find where it is, where it used to be on the map. You can't even find where it used to be because the whole thing is just blackened out. It's gone.
It's wiped out.
It's wiped out.
Now let's break his heart. This is the before and after photo posted by the BBC, which is no friend of Iran, we all know. This photo shows that the conversion facility is still easily visible in the latest Maxar image with some damages to buildings. But Rubio would tell you the facility can't be seen at all because Americans have completely destroyed it. Dear Americans, you have a bunch of clowns running your country. Then there is a second setback to Netanyahu. Even Donald Trump has now humiliated him and his army of terrorists called the IDF, mocking Israel's air defense system and praising Iranian military for its ability to hit Israel hard. Trump said this.
Iran, look, you know, they've got a country, and they've got oil, and they're very smart people, and they can come back. Israel got hit very hard, especially the last couple of days. Israel was hit really hard. Those ballistic missiles, boy, they took out a lot of buildings, and they've been great.
Trump is currently in The Hague, in Netherlands, to attend the NATO summit, where he made these comments. I have repeatedly explained the details of both the long-term and short-term losses suffered by Israel at the hands of Iranians who overwhelmed Netanyahu by firing ballistic and hypersonic missiles. You can watch all my videos on this conflict on this channel. And not to forget the PR disaster that Israel continues to experience globally. This is Candace Owens on the Piers Morgan Show.
Who's saying, I don't know, death to China or death to Russia? What is it specifically about America?
Well, they say death to America, death to Israel, death to the United Kingdom, actually.
Oh, okay.
Death to pretty much anyone that wants to stand up to them.
Could have had something to do with our actions in the Middle East is why I'm saying that we need a change in foreign policy. It maybe has something to do with just like killing 1 million Iraqi civilians, okay, because Bibi Netanyahu got on a congressional stage and said there are weapons of mass destruction, and we took that to the bank, and there actually were no weapons of mass destruction, so we just killed 1 million. It could have something, I could be crazy, it could have something to do with our actions in the Middle East, the fact that we have 2,000 troops stationed in Syria right now under the guise of saying that we're fighting ISIS, while at the same time we know that Bibi Netanyahu funded the al-Qaeda adjacent front because he wanted to overthrow Syria. And they, again, expand their borders, immediately take on territory and sell us absolute nonsense. We're talking about funding Hamas. Bibi Netanyahu funded Hamas. There is footage of Bibi Netanyahu saying this stuff on camera. So it's just so ridiculous to me to pretend that they're in some predicament, that they may be eradicated soon, which is why they have to keep funding all of these terrorist groups and then pretending that they're victims of terror, when in fact they are the people that are imparting it worldwide. right. I just think that, like I said, Generation 9/11 has grown up, and I think that our eyes are very clear here, and we recognize that our relationship with Israel has become increasingly problematic, and it always was problematic. So I'll again ask the questions, Piers. I'm asking you because we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
Name something positive that our Zionist AIPAC foreign policy has brought to America.
As if this is not enough, a man called Zohran Mamdani, a South Asian and Muslim politician, has just humiliated Netanyahu's lawyer at the International Criminal Court, Andrew Cuomo, to become the mayoral candidate of the Democratic Party in this year's New York elections. If elected, his victory in November will make him the first ever South Asian and Muslim mayor of New York. Just listen to his views on Netanyahu.
And Mayor Mamdani, would you welcome Prime Minister Netanyahu to New York City for whatever he comes for, given the US is not a signatory to the ICC, so he can travel to the US, unlike a lot of other countries. Would a Mayor Mamdani welcome Benjamin Netanyahu to the city?
No. As mayor, New York City would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. This is a city that our values are in line with international law. It's time that our actions are also.
Even though the US is not a signatory to the ICC?
No, it's time that we actually step up and make clear what we are willing to do to showcase the leadership that is sorely missing in the federal administration.
Who would have thought a brown and a Muslim man with an open stand against the rogue regime of Israel would defeat a pro-Israeli candidate in New York, of all the places? This has been possible because of the changing perception against Israel for its horrible war crimes and Holocaust. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism on buymeacoffee.com and Patreon. If you too think that our journalism is worth supporting, then you too should consider becoming part of it. Details are there in the description of this video. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.